Hey there crew, it's Mark, and in today's video we are going to be checking out Tom Studio's LUMOS Pro. If you're anything like me and you're on the internet, you've probably seen these ads from Tom Studio before talking about creating an infinity pen to reduce plastic waste. I first heard about these pens a while ago from the community. They were like, Mark, you need this pen. And I'll tell you, they were so incredibly right. Today's video, we will be reviewing the LUMOS Pro, which is a single-sided pen from Tom Studio, as well as the LUMOS Duo, which is a two-sided pen that you can fill with two different types of ink using two different types of nibs. Honestly, it's a very cool pen, and I'm so excited to review both of these with you today. We'll take a look at what's inside of the box. We'll talk about how to fill these pens. We'll certainly be doing a pen test on these, and the part that I was most nervous about, how in the world do you clean these pens to then reuse them again and again? I was very intimidated by this pen. There's definitely some trial and error, also me not reading directions. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and unbox the Tom Studio LUMOS pen. We'll go ahead and unbox the pen, take a look at everything. Inside of here, we have some Dorset tea. Okay, go into this. On the front, we have a nice thank you note from Tom Studio. Actually, talking about that tea, that's the town that they are from. On the back of here, we have an earth-friendly packaging. So this is details on everything that Tom Studio is doing to further enhance the idea of reusability. So the paper, the cardboard, the tape, the bags, the tissue paper, everything in here is recyclable or has been recycled. So inside of my package here, I have the LUMOS Pro, and then I also have some extra accessories that I got as well as a part of this. I got some of the extra reservoirs, so if I want to fill it with extra ink, I have some options. The purpose of these tubes is so that you can put your currently inked reservoirs into here for storage while you're using a different color. So if you have your reservoir currently inked with black, but you want to switch it to orange, you can store the black one in here, load up the orange right with it, and then change them out as you need to. On the back of here, you have some notes. Bid farewell to disposable pens, the LUMOS beautiful, infinitely refillable fineliner, writing, and a brush pen. Now remember, you have 11 different nibs that you can use with this pen that come as a part of this packaging. I love that it kind of showcases them all right here on the back when you get started. On the side of the box, you have everything that's included. We've got the LUMOS Pro. There's a 3 milliliter black ink inside of here, as well as the 11 interchangeable tip types. I love when a product has everything you need right inside of the packaging, so even if you don't already have fountain pen ink, they include some with you so you can get up and running right away. We'll go ahead and open up the packaging. We have our pen that's nice and secured inside of here. Underneath this flap, we have some directions as well as the tips, and then inside of this little folded piece, we have the ink. Also a nice note here from Tom. There's also some type of like a plastic cap inside of here, and let's go ahead and take a look at the directions. Probably the most important part, right? So we have some background on the company here, details on which inks can work along with this pen, and then you have a whole breakdown of everything. So that little tip was a silicone tip grip that they have. Also the details, your tip cover, your tip, the holder, and the reservoir. So these are gonna be all the pieces of this pen, so you know exactly what you're getting into. I also love that it says don't linger on the instructions, let's get right to it. And then some details over here on how to fill your pen. It looks like we have some new packaging that has the full tip set. When I originally saw the advertising for this pen, it was like a long sheet with all of the tips. I really like this new compact look. So inside of here, we have all the different nibs or tips that are available for you. It says Japanese made tips here. You can see all of the feeds down here in the bottom and then all of the tips here on top. Everything from 0.1 up to 1.3. We have some bullet nibs, brush nibs, chisel nibs. So getting up close here, so you have the tip of your pen at the top, right where the ink comes out, and then this whole feed here is how the ink gets sucked up from that reservoir into that pen nib. So this is very neat, very petite, very small. Let's hope I don't lose any of these. All right, let's get to the pen, the fun part. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and unscrew the end, and that's going to reveal the tip cover and then the tip holder as well. So all of that is screwed inside of the pen here. So I'll go ahead and twist that out. The reservoir will come out as well. So we have a really nice just empty barrel here. We have the reservoir, and then we have this two-part piece. This is the tip cover and then the tip holder. And those two are gonna work together. Now between the tip cover and the tip holder, that's where we're going to put the tips that come inside of this packaging. So all you have to do is just take that nib and you're gonna push it inside of the tip holder here. I'll be very honest with you, I was nervous on how petite this is. I was just nervous I was just gonna break it right away, but you do have to push it in there pretty snugly. That way it's gonna hold on to it really well. So don't be afraid to give it that little extra pressure that it needs to securely put it inside of the holder. All right, that sits in there really nice. So that's how you know what's in there. It's gonna lay flat up against your tip holder here. Then we'll go ahead and take the tip cover, and that's gonna go ahead and get threaded right back on top of there. And then you can see it easily screws right back into place. And then you have that silicone tip grip if you want to go ahead and put it over top as a cover. And then you can just screw the end cap back onto the end of the pen, and then you have your full pen. So the real reusable part of this pen, obviously the nibs and the tips are reusable, but the reservoir is probably the most important part of this product because this is what holds on to all of your different fountain pen ink as you're writing with it. Now the pen itself comes with one reservoir, but as I mentioned, you can purchase extra from the website if you want. And then of course they also have the storage vial if you want to put everything inside of here. I'll just keep it all in here just for safekeeping for now. And why not? Because, well, I love options. All right, so now the exciting part, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna fill up our reservoir with ink. So as we saw, this package comes with 3 milliliters of black ink already. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna stick the reservoir just right into the ink. And then using capillary action, fancy words, this is the same way that fountain pens work, all of the ink will get sucked up inside of this reservoir. Now, one thing that I have to share with you is that actually in the directions, it talks about putting the tip onto the reservoir first and then placing your reservoir into your ink. And that way you don't have as much opportunity, let's call it, for ink to get on your hands as you're doing this. Now, I just really wanted to show you what this looked like without the top on it as we did this because it looks so cool when the ink is getting sucked up inside of here. There is plastic coating around the reservoir, so you can hold on to it pretty safely for this size. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and take that tip holder that has the tip already secured inside of it. And we're gonna go ahead and just press that into the reservoir here. It doesn't screw in or anything, you just gotta give it a nice little push and it's in there. As it's working, it's gonna go ahead and start to suck that ink up into the tip. So we'll go ahead and just screw this back into the barrel here. And in a matter of seconds, you'll see right there in front of your eyes, the ink going right into the tip of this fineliner. As much as I love using pens, I love filling this pen. It's like a little ink magic show happening right in front of your eyes. So let's go ahead and give it a pen test and see exactly how well this writes. I was always nervous about this pen because I didn't think you would get as much saturation with the ink. Obviously, this is black ink, so it's going to look pretty good on here. To me, it feels like using any type of other fine liner. And honestly, it feels like much better quality, especially some of those like real cheapy ones you get. The quality of this pen is super nice. The nibs feel really good. You don't feel like it's gonna like instantly push up inside of the tip, which if anyone uses fine liners, you know that is like the scariest and worst thing to ever happen. All right, so let's go ahead and try to change out our tip. I'm gonna go from this fine liner and then I'm gonna go ahead and insert the brush tip. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just go ahead and unscrew the tip holder and the tip cover from the top. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just try to pull out the nib here. Now, when you're doing this part, you can use that silicone grip if you want to, but I just personally found that not to be the absolute best, especially with some of these fine liner nibs. There's metal there. You can usually grab it pretty easily. You might get like one little ink print on your finger, but just grab it nice and secure and pull it. You're not going to easily break it. Don't overhandle it, but also don't treat it too petitely because it's never gonna come out. Now, the problem is that I had to find a place to put this because it does have ink on it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sit on this piece of plastic. And then I'm gonna go ahead and insert the brush tip here. Now, when I first put in this brush tip, I treated it the same way that I treated the nib, which is putting it inside of the tip holder and then putting the tip cover over top of it and then screwing it back into the pen barrel. But the problem came when I tried to take it out of the nib holder. Now, see, the thing is that I was extremely excited just to get into using this pen that I didn't read the directions fully, and it clearly says on the directions that the fiber tips should be pushed into the tip cover without the need to unscrew it. So what this means is that after I would remove that fine liner, I would screw it all back together, and then I would go ahead and insert that fiber tip into the pen there. When you're pushing this in, you'll notice that it's not gonna just fall out. It's a very tight fit. I honestly was very nervous while I did it, but it is a lot easier to remove this way than it is when I screwed it in there. Using that silicone grip, super helpful. I think it's probably the reason that it exists there, aside from protecting the top of your pens when you don't have it out, is that you use it in this case to keep your fingers a little bit more clean. All right, so we got our hands on the pen. Super fun to use. I love all of the options on here. I don't even mind changing out the tips and the nibs. I actually think it's super fun to do that. But the part that always threw me off when I first saw this pen and didn't fully understand it is where is the reusability of this? And how in the hell do I clean out a reservoir that has nothing but fountain pen ink on it? And how do I clean out the nibs as well? So the answer to this question is you just run it underneath a sink faucet and you should be pretty good to go. Now, I probably should have spent a little bit more time with the fiber nibs and really letting them really kind of rinse out. But I'll tell you that the fineliner nibs, all I did was just sit it straight under that, and it kind of did the opposite action of filling it, which was just pushing all of the ink out. Now the reservoir, this was a little bit messier. I ran this underneath the faucet, and as you can see, the ink kind of went everywhere. But using that same capillary action that got the ink into this, it also flushed it out of here as well. It only took a few minutes to get all of the ink out of it, and then I did a little extra squeeze getting that excess water out. But once it was clean, I was good to go, and I just set it out and I let it dry for a little bit, and then it was perfect and ready to reuse again. So as intimidating as this thing looks, it really wasn't that bad. You're just unscrewing that tip holder, you're putting things inside of it, you're using your reservoirs. Honestly, everything about this is really fantastic, and I'm really glad that I have it. The thing about the LUMOS Pro, just the single pen, is that you can't have multiple inks at once. You'd have to have that reservoir, you definitely would need the storage container for it if you want to switch that out, and you'd have to really clean those nibs every single time in between. But they also have a product which is pretty cool that solves this problem, and it's called the LUMOS Duo. So the biggest difference between these two pens is that you can have a one-sided cap pen, or you can actually twist in the middle and have a two-sided pen with two different reservoirs. The big difference here is that the reservoirs on the Duo are about half the size, which would make sense. And Tom Studio has thought of everything with this pen. I love that it can just be a single-sided pen. I love that you can unscrew it and make it a dual-side pen. You can use the cap to protect one of the tips while you're using the other side. It just has it all going on, and it's so incredibly fun. Inside of the packaging for this one, we're going to find the same things. We have the full tip set, we have the 3 milliliters of ink, and also the silicone cap, those directions that are important to read as well, and everything just looks so good. Since we've already talked through all of that, let's go ahead and fill up the Duo with 2 different colored inks and see how well this works and the overall experience. For this part, we're using Colorverse Bluish Green for our darker color. And then we'll be using Amarillo Antiguo here. I'm really excited to see what the 0.1 fineliner looks like. And let's go ahead and reuse the brush as well. I want to see how well I clean this out and what it looks like when the ink comes through this one with a lighter color versus the black I had before. Because I read the instructions before and trial and error, I know that I can go ahead and take that brush nib and just push it right into the top of the tip holder without unscrewing anything. For the 0.1 tip, I do need to unscrew the tip cover from the tip holder. Go ahead and push that in there, make sure that it's nice and secure, and then we'll go ahead and screw that back on. As a reminder, again, it does say in the instructions to put your tip and the reservoir on, and that way you don't get extra messy with this. You'll see in just a second after I filled up the lighter color ink that I got it on my hands because I don't have as much space with this smaller reservoir. So that's why it makes a lot of sense to have that tip holder already on your reservoir when you're filling this up. But I can't help it, I love watching the ink get sucked up inside of this reservoir. I'm like a little kid. The blue-green I'm just gonna hold on to so my reservoir doesn't fall into my ink bottle here. That fills up very quickly. Go ahead and put the tip on side of here, screw everything inside of our pen, and let's go ahead and have our pen test. Even though the tip of this looks a little dark still from having that blank, the yellow is coming out great. I do have to show you that before I put it down on this paper, I just had a scrap piece of paper and I had to really work out a lot of that darker black that was in that nib before the yellow really started to come out a lot better. But once it did, everything looked awesome. I'll go ahead and pull out my 0.1 tip here out of the barrel. I love this thing, it's so cool. I love that it has these dual sides, but to protect me, because I'll probably accidentally draw on my face, I am gonna put this silicone cap over top of that brush tip while I'm writing with this other one. This 0.1 fineliner is so nice, and these inks actually worked really well together that I could actually draw on top of them. I love how easily you can just pull off that silicone tip, use the brush tip, and then you're good to go. Now, something to pay attention to here, when you're screwing this back together, you'll see that there is a small rubber gasket. This is here to protect the tip and the ink from drying out on the pen that's gonna go inside of here. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. Give it a nice firm turn to keep it as airproof as possible. Now, you know me, I love my options, so I wanted to try out a different tip on this side. So I went ahead and replaced the 0.1 with the 1.0. Since I've done this a few times now, I feel very confident about it. Just putting them right in there, making sure they're nice and secure, using the tips the way they're supposed to be used. And honestly, the 0.1, it just feels so good. This whole pen is just absolutely awesome. One thing I definitely have to remind myself of as I'm using this pens is just going to be to clean those tips right away. So cleaning the 0.1, super easy. I just held it underneath the faucet and in no time it was clean and it was good to be put away. So my overall feeling on the LUMOS, buying this for myself, trying them out, experimenting, getting a little bit dirty, is that this pen is awesome. And I'm sad that I waited this long to get it into my life. I think my favorite part of this pen is changing out the nibs and putting the ink inside the reservoirs and really feeling like I have a custom made pen for me. Whatever color I want of the inks that I have, I can easily fill up. I also love that it has 11 different nibs to pick from. And while it is a slight inconvenience to have to take out a nib to put in a new one, honestly, if you're using the same color, that takes just a few seconds to do and you're ready to go. Now, I will say there is gonna be a little bit of messiness with this. Anytime you're dealing with inks, it just can get that way. So whether it's not putting the tip onto the reservoir before you fill it, or also just changing out the nibs and kind of using this as a whole, it is fountain pen ink at the end of the day. And for me personally, my hands are always inky. Something's always going on around here. But I do like that they include the silicone tip in case you want to use that, especially for like the brush pens or the fiber tips, really getting those out of there easily. You're gonna get kind of messy if you're just using your hands or even a paper towel. So having that there, able to rinse it out easily, that's awesome. I'd have to say that if I was going to choose between the two pens, I personally think that I would have only purchased the Duo because it kind of does everything that I need it to do, and it gives me the extra options to have other tips and colors in it at the same exact time. So if you are super interested in the Tom Studio LUMOS Pro or the Duo, I do have a special offer for you. I just became an affiliate with them. I just absolutely fell in love with everything that they're doing. You can use my discount code, which is Mark Your Pages. That's gonna save you 10% off your purchase from the Tom Studio website. Whether you're interested in just the Pro, the single-sided pen, the Duo, which is the double-sided pen, or even any of the other calligraphy holders, the inks that they're getting into, all of that 10% off by using that discount code. Also shows your support for the channel. I always appreciate that. But more than anything, saving that extra 10%, especially for me, because I used a friend's code when I bought mine, is a great savings on this. I'm not gonna say that the pen is not expensive. $75 for the Pro or $120 for the Duo is up there. But when you consider that you don't have to buy all of these different sizes, you can continue to reuse this over time. Those are the type of things that I like to keep in mind when I'm doing it. But when you add that discount code to it, it makes it even sweeter. It makes it feel a little bit more worth it. This pen is so incredibly fun, and I totally understand what Tom is doing with this company. The idea of reusing a pen over and over versus a single-use pen is a fantastic idea. And like I said, I love that I can fill my pens up with whatever colors that I want. I'm gonna do some further testing with more inks and ways to use this pen. And even though I know I'm not supposed to, I am interested to see what happens if I use a shimmer ink inside of here. It might clog things up. I might have to do some extra cleaning, but overall excited about it. If you think the LUMOS is one for you, or if you already have this pen, I'd love to hear about your experiences, and this community will too. It's one thing for me to say how much I love it, but another thing if you're like, yeah, Mark, this is one of the coolest pens ever, and people are like on the fence whether or not they want it. So definitely leave those comments down below. Can't wait to have that conversation with you. And as always, my friends, I will talk to you next time. See ya.